You want to meet the Masons? This is how I ended up with my straight best friend.
So I have actually been straight my whole life and have never, ever, ever, ever considered women before or anybody who wasn't male. And partially, like, we were raised in evangelical spaces, so that was like, you know, a terrible sin. But I've actually never been attracted to women before in that way, or at least I didn't know I was.
Can't relate. I've been queer my whole life. And though I have been queer and known that I was queer my whole life, like she said, we both were raised, obviously, evangelical Christian, and being gay, being queer, not being straight, not an option. And not only is it not an option, it's a sin in their eyes. So I never acted on my queerness, but I have been queer my whole life.
So in 2016, I was having a worship night at my house because, again, we were
Christian.
in that space. And that, yeah. And Kelly walked into my house because she came through a friend of a friend of a friend. And we met, and I immediately knew that this person was going to be in my life forever. As soon as I saw her.
It's giving gay. I mean, I know you were not a practicing gay, but like, it's giving gay.
And to be honest, there wasn't like this attraction, like, oh, I'm so attracted to her. It was just like something about her. I was like, oh my gosh, I know that we're going to be friends.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So in 2016, I had just moved to Columbus for a church job where I was a worship leader. So when a friend of a friend of a friend invited me to a worship night, I was like, oh, this is cool. I guess I'll meet some new people. And it ended up being at Taylor's house.
So we became best friends pretty quickly. And though we had like a big friend group and a big church group, like this was my bestie, okay? Bestie for the restie. And we had a lot of people actually like think before, like, are you guys a thing? And I was like, I'm literally not attracted to women, so there's no way.
Yeah, and at the time, because I was working at a church that was not affirming, and that was something I dealt with my whole life, I was not pursuing any relationships with women. Also, I don't identify as a lesbian. I like men, so I was perfectly fine with dating men. So the thought of us being together romantically never crossed our minds, and really wasn't an option. And if you come from evangelical Christian spaces, like you know what it's like. That's not an option. That's not something that crosses your mind.
Yeah. But looking back, I'm like, if people were thinking that, and if the moment I met you, I was like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be my person. I'm looking back, I'm like, maybe it was love.
It's giving gay. It's giving gay. You were gay for me the whole time.
After a few years of being friends, we ended up actually becoming roommates with another friend. So it was the three of us.
Yeah.
And we all had our own rooms, and, you know, so again, like, everything was just normal, how you would live with any other roommates.
Right.
But when we tell people that we were roommates, of course, the first thing is like, of course you were. But, like, no, we actually were.
We were actually roommates.
So in 2020, at the height of, like, the BLM movement happening as Black women, we actually lost our house, which is a whole other story, maybe another part of the series. But basically, we ended up like not knowing what we were going to do, and we were still best friends, and at the time living in the same house.
Right. And the other person who was living with us had moved out and moved in with another friend. So it was just the two of us, and when we lost our house, we had to find somewhere to go.
Yeah. So that led us to moving to Tampa, Florida, and that is when our deconstruction journey started, and how, and I'm sure that if you were in an evangelical space or a Christian space during that time, you know, like, deconstruction became a thing during 2020. And it did. Seriously. I had been deconstructing since I was like 19.
And I had never heard of it.
Yeah, but in 2020, there was like a name given to it, and people were digging deep, and our friends were digging deep, and conversations were being had. And that's when things started to really, like, I think happen for you. For me, I was just like, oh, I get to be an ally. And I
was like, oh, I can just be myself. I'll just be able to live as a queer person, date whoever I want.
Yeah.
And not an issue.
Yeah. So this is part one. We'll do a part two to kind of explain how we actually ended up together. Finally, part two, Meet the Masons, is here.
Of how I ended up with my straight best friend.
So 2020 deconstructing, basically around 2021, we end up deciding like, let's stay in Tampa, and we found an apartment, and it was just us. And this is where like people who were like saying that, oh, you guys were already together. We got a 2-bed, 2-bath apartment. Kelly had a wing, I had a wing. I don't know about y'all, but like if you know this, but Tampa is expensive. Do you think that I would be hiding our relationship for what? To pay more rent? I would have got a 1-bath so fast. Also, we told people that we were together, what, a day after our first date? Like
literally the day after, because we were so excited.
Yeah. So like we were not, like when I say roommates.
Yeah, that's not like we were roommates. Like, no, we were roommates. There was nothing else going on.
Yeah, because straight girl over here.
At least not in the beginning, you know what I'm saying?
So we're in our new apartment. We both end up getting new jobs. We did not realize going into these jobs, because they were at churches, that both churches were affirming. We didn't even know what affirming meant. We didn't even know that there were affirming churches out there.
Didn't know you could be gay and be a pastor. Like, I did not know. I started working at an ELCA Lutheran church, and if you know, you know. And I had no idea. I thought, oh, this is just like any other church that I've ever been at, worked at. Yeah. As a worship leader. I was a youth director. I had no idea. Little did I know.
So working at these churches, probably a couple weeks in, we realized like, oh, this is different. And they really helped us with our deconstruction journey. And again, I was like, yes, I get to be this ally to my best friend who now is like getting to live in her, like,
in my truth.
Yeah.
In my own body.
I was so happy for her. So we end up having our rent raised by $700 in the apartment that we were in. So we had to move quickly. And we end up finding another apartment, moving. It's a whole thing. Basically, this new apartment is kind of what led to like everything. So I don't really know what happened, to be honest. Like, I just, one day, I really don't know what it was, but like, I started to like recognize, oh, I do know what it was. Actually, I do know.
Tell us.
We had a conversation because we were on dating apps. Right? I was on dating apps, like strictly looking for men. Right. And you were on dating apps.
I was dating everybody.
Newly, I was like, oh, I'm going to date everybody.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because I like men. I like women. I like non-binary. I like everyone. Yeah. And so we talked about who we were dating and like what we were looking for in a potential partner.
Yeah. Best friend conversation.
Yeah. Normal. And then what happened?
What had happened was I said to her, I started this conversation at our kitchen island, and I said, okay, is it just me, or like is dating on these apps really like what the hell? So I asked her, what are you looking for on, like, when you're dating people, especially because you're like not just dating men, like what are the values that you're looking for? What exactly are you looking for? Because maybe I'm wrong. Like maybe
yeah, you wrong.
But I was just like, what? Like, it was so frustrating. So I was just asking her, like, when you're on these apps, what do you look for? We have this conversation of basically like everything she looks for and everything that I'm looking for completely aligning, which, like, we're friends, we live together.
It makes sense.
Like,
we have the same values.
Right. Well, the biggest thing for me was like, I didn't know if I could ever find somebody who would understand the spiritual journey and the faith journey that I had going from fundamentalist, evangelical, and then deconstructing all of that.
Not even basically, being in a cult to not being in a cult.
Right.
It kind of takes experience, like, especially in the specific thing.
Yeah.
It is hard to find someone who understands. Like, if you're deconstructing, you know where we are. If you're not deconstructing, you're probably judging us, and that's fine. We get it. We've been there. But it is a different kind of thing.
Yeah. So that's where it started. So we go through this list, and we're like, okay, so really, like, our values align. Everything, like, aligns. And I'm like, okay, so I'm not crazy. And then I made the comment, it's like I'm looking for a male version of you.
And I was like, yeah, sounds like it.
Kelly proceeds to leave the conversation. She just casually is like, yeah. She is like,
I went to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm going to bed. See you tomorrow.
It's like, let me grab my tea. Bye.
Yeah. Like, goes to bed. I am standing at the kitchen island and I'm like,
having an inner crisis. Meanwhile, I'm asleep. I had no idea.
So this is when I am freaking out and I'm like, what the shit? Am I actually looking for her? Like, it, huh? Okay, we'll see you in part 3. Part 3 of Meet the Masons, the new series.
How we ended up together. How I ended up with my straight best friend. So I'm asleep. You're standing at the kitchen counter processing what you just
What
said.
I just said.
That you were looking for me, essentially.
Yeah.
Then what happened?
An identity crisis happened.
Okay, great.
For 2 months, silent to myself.
That's true.
Yes. And I know this because my therapist had just gone on maternity leave.
Yeah.
Pretty much the week this happened. And I was like, I have
like nobody to talk to. Because she didn't tell me this. No. I had no idea. I went to bed. For me, that conversation of like, you're looking for me, like, to me was, haha, that's cute, funny, move on.
Yeah.
I didn't know that she was actually pondering and processing this. And when I say she went ghost on me for 2 months, we lived together. We're best friends. We do everything together. I had no idea. And she was starting to act funny, but I didn't know why.
So inside myself, silently, I am trying to figure out, like, what does this mean? Like, if I am I interested? And if I am, how? Because I'm straight and I've never felt queer. I've never felt like I was attracted to women. Am I attracted to her? Is that an attraction? Like, just like internally going nuts.
Because at that point, you hadn't even gotten to like, are you allowed to like me or anything like that? Like from the old way of thinking of Christianity, you were just like processing, how can I be straight but also be feeling
something
towards me, a woman.
Right. Yeah, so I'm like internally going through it and I'm just trying, like in my mind, like if I could just talk to a therapist, if I could just talk to somebody who wouldn't like, who would just get it or like be neutral, and I couldn't. And so I was just like, I'm gonna have to wait until she comes back from maternity leave. So I'm gonna sit like this for 3 months. And basically I guess I was acting funny. I thought I was hiding it.
No.
But apparently I wasn't.
You were waiting for your therapist to come back, and that's when I started, after the like probably a month and a half is when I started to pick up on it.
Yeah.
But eventually it was probably around 2 months when I finally said something to you like, are you good? Like, do we need to talk about something? Because the other thing is, in our friendship, like, we have the same values. So when something is off or something's wrong, we confront each other. We talk about things. Like, we could have hard moments and get through them. So I was very confused as to, like, what could I have done to make you act this odd for this long and not confront me? Like, did I not do the dishes in time? Like, what's going on?
So, so she asks me, like, what is wrong? And of course, I don't want to tell her because she's my best friend and our friendship means everything to me.
Right.
So what if I tell her that I like have feelings for her or I'm attracted to her and she doesn't feel the same way about me and she's my best friend? Then we're going to be awkward and weird or lose our friendship? Like, I was not willing to go there. I wasn't willing to risk what we had for like the potential that she wouldn't like me back. That
sounds like love to me.
So basically I end up crying and I'm like, I'm freaking out. Like, I don't know what to do. So we end up in this conversation and I tell her, like, listen, I think I find myself attracted to you. I think I have feelings for you and I don't know what to do with that. And like,
and I was like,
I'm just a mess. And though this might be the face she's giving now, and maybe what you were thinking, you responded to me in a way that made me feel so safe and cared for. And in a way that I didn't feel any pressure, but I also didn't feel rejected. And
I don't remember how I reacted. I have ADHD, so I don't remember all of these specific moments.
You were just really nice, and you were like, hey, like, thank you for telling me. I don't want you to freak out. Like, it's really not that big a deal. If you want to take time to like talk to your therapist, like,
yeah, I was like, it sounds like you have a crush, and crushes aren't normal. I do remember saying like,
yeah, like,
so
everything's okay.
It's a crush. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, in my mind, I'm thinking she's gonna move past this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do remember. I was like, yeah, it's a crush.
Okay, we have to pause here. We'll go to part 4. Part 4. Meet the Masons.
How I ended up with my straight best friend.
Right. Okay. Got it. So she responds really great. And I'm like, okay, my therapist went back for another month. Give me another month to like really sort this out and talk to my therapist.
Oh yeah, because that's when I was like, sounds like a crush. Like, let's talk about it. And she was like, no, I just have to wait for her to come back and then we'll talk about it. And I was like, that's fine, but like, we can talk. We can still have conversations. Like, you are going through it. Like, I can see it on your face that you are stressed.
I did not want to get too deep without clarity in myself.
I mean, I get that, but I just felt really bad that she was going through all of this stuff. Like, I know what it's like to be queer and to feel something towards someone, but to feel like you've been straight your whole life, you've never experienced this kind of feeling towards someone of the same gender or sex, and then to be processing that by yourself, it's just a lot. So it was a lot. Truly, as her friend, if it were another woman, I still would have been like, please talk to me about this. This is a lot.
So over that month, I did not wait for my therapist. There would be times where like we would kind of start a conversation and I'd be like, it's okay. When I talk to my therapist, everything will be fine. And then we would just like kind of move on. And then that turned into like, the next conversation we talked a little bit longer and I would end it that way. And then the next time a little bit longer.
It was like, yeah, every time we ended a conversation, I do remember that you being like, but it's okay, I'm going to talk to her. And I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So basically in our conversations, it was like, it was a lot. We were just having a lot of like really good constructive conversations, but through those I started to feel like we both started to feel attraction towards each other. And we both started to have feelings towards each other, and it was like developing through these combos, right?
Yeah. Well, I think what really happened was the moment she said, like, I think I feel something towards you, and I reassured her, like, it's just a crush, like, no big deal. My mind went in 2 paths. If you know anything about Enneagram, I'm a 4, so I love to live in fantasy and imagination. So in my mind, I split between, okay, there's a chance that she like really likes me, and we could like start dating and we get married and we have kids. Like, again, if you're a 4, you get it. Like, I'm just exploring this path. But then at the same time, I'm remembering like reality and like she may have this crush or these feelings just because she now knows she's allowed to, and it goes nowhere and we just stay friends and that's fine. So while she's having her extra month of processing, trying to figure things out, I am at a fork in the road and I'm like living in this duality of like, we could end up together and also like this could be nothing. So that's what was happening in my head as she was freaking out. I was just trying to figure out which path am I going to end up on.
So from that, we ended up, I did talk to my therapist and we did have conversations that led to us saying, okay, if we date each other and if we end up being together, this is what it will do to our families. And we had to have a real conversation about our families, about some of our friends even.
Yeah.
And we decided, because we've known each other at this point for 5.5 years, because we had already lived together for most of those years, like we knew each other really well. And so we U-hauled and we decided that like, if we're going to do this, we're not going to date to see, we're going to date to get married, because we're not going to mess up things with our family for like, oh, we broke up.
For a couple dates. Yeah.
So that's what we did.
It's kind of what we did, which it is unfortunate that we had to make that kind of decision under that kind of pressure. But again, we are going to make a separate video about deconstruction and religious family and all of that stuff. But it is relevant. Like, it helped us make our decision, and really know what we wanted. And we went into our relationship with a lot of intentionality. because we really had to. It was a matter of like, we could lose all of our friends, all of our family, because they all have this same belief system. We're all a part of the same religious cult-like behavior. And so like, if we're going to do this, we have to know that we know that we know.
Right.
So it's kind of where that pressure came from.
Yeah. And just also, one of my biggest fears in this was like, because I've always expected to be with a man, like if I'm with a woman, would I feel like I'm missing something? Will I feel? And so I was like, well, I guess we have to find out.
Oh my God.
And that helped our decision figuring out that we wanted to get married.
That helped your decision.
Okay, part 5.
We didn't know this was going to be so many parts, but I guess it is a long story.
It's a series, right?
It's a series.
Yeah.
Okay, part 5 of Meet the Masons, how my straight best friend fell in love with me. Let's be real.
Yeah. Well, here we go. Hopefully we can finish it in this video. So there were some things for me that, like, basically in this little 3-month situation where I was kind of spiraling by myself and then told her, and then we started having conversations about it, and then we're like, okay, let's see what we want to do with this. Let's start dating. Are we getting married? Question mark. In the process of all of that, there were a lot of things going on. So I'll do a couple of separate videos of like,
you're gonna have to.
Yeah, like how I knew that I knew that I was in love with Kelly, and like this was it. Even feeling like I wasn't.
Yeah, it's all relevant, but I think in order to get through this story, we're gonna have to make some.
We'll make some extras for you. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we have to backtrack just a little bit because we did forget a little part of the story,
and it's kind of like what set off a chain reaction for Taylor.
Yes. So we end up right at the point where like Kelly's like, oh, so you have a crush?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I don't really know what to do with this. I need to talk to my therapist.
And I kind of was like at this split in my mind of like, oh, this could turn into like something really good, but also like it could be just a crush. It could even just be like what they call as a girl crush. Like it's not even real emotional, like romantic feeling. So I'm still at this like
before
split.
We act on anything.
Yeah, before we talk about marriage or anything too deep, and we're just kind of like, oh, acknowledging that you're feeling some stuff.
And we're still friends. This one.
I was like, great. Back to the dating apps. So I was still actively dating people. And so I had 2 dates, and one with someone who I had dated in the past, and one with a new person. And so I was really excited about these dates, especially the one where I was reconnecting with someone. And I thought Taylor was excited for me and with me, because she was like, what are you going to wear? And like, oh, let's get you ready for this date.
I was being a good best friend.
Let's get you ready for this date.
Yeah, I was being a good best friend. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, let's pick out your outfit together. This could be your last first
Yeah,
date.
I remember telling her, like, what if this is like my last first date? And she's like, oh my gosh, so fun. Apparently, she was not really that excited for me. So,
both of these dates, this is where things kind of rev up for me, because she goes to the date that I help her pick out her outfit.
Yep.
She leaves, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be such a great time. Like, have so much fun, be safe, da da da. As soon as the door closes, I'm like, this bitch really went through with it. She really went through with it. Like, she left. And I felt so much jealousy in my body, which I don't think I've ever really felt before, at least not like that. And I was
I'm driving to my date excited. Had no idea that she's back at our apartment, like, just seething.
Going through
I didn't know.
Again. So, couple hours, I distract myself. You know, I'm watching a movie, something. And
yeah, what were you doing?
I was like, what show can I get into?
I just went on a coffee date, and it literally was probably, here's the thing. The date was probably an hour and a half, but where we lived in Florida, it took me about 45 minutes to an hour to get to this person. So I had to drive. If you're from Tampa, I was in Wesley Chapel, and I went to St. Pete. So it was like an hour drive there. I was there for about an hour and a half, and an hour drive home. So for her, it felt like I was on a date for like 4 hours. It wasn't even that long. But anyway.
So, all that to say,
It was a nice date. It was actually really nice.
She calls me after coffee on the way home, on the drive home, and is like, I asked the question, like, so how was it? Like, everything good? And she was like
she cared.
Yeah, like it was fine. Like I mean, we could be friends. Like it's nothing.
Yeah, they were a nice person, but not. I wasn't romantically interested in them, which apparently
was.
But she on the phone was like, "Oh, sad."
But no, ultimately, that's when things took off for me, and I was like, "Get back here. We have some conversations to have. I don't care about therapy.
We need to talk.
Whatever this is, we got to talk about it." That's
okay.
what led us to, okay, now we're like really talking about this, and then really like, okay, if we do this, this is what it would look like. We start going through all the pros and cons of family stuff.
All of the pressure of like
just everything.
If we're really dating,
right.
We're getting married. We're
right.
dating.
Yeah.
So.
And yeah, we decided after all of that I was going to take her on our first date.
It was really sweet.
Yeah.
It was really sweet. She told me that we were going to brunch at one of our favorite places. So I got ready to like go to brunch. I was really excited. And we're in the car, and instead of turning like to go to the brunch place, she turns in the opposite direction. Like basically we're in Tampa, like towards the ocean. And I'm like, the place we're going is downtown. Why are you headed towards the beach, essentially? This girl took me on a brunch cruise for our first date. I mean, luxury. She was laying it on thick. She was like, I am here. I'm apparently queer, and you're going to be with me.
And there will be a video for this, but I bought the ring the night before our first date. But that's another video. So I take her on this brunch cruise because, of course, like, she just went on dates. I have to step up, okay? I need her to be with me, okay? Mm-hmm. So I'm like, listen, let me take you on a proper date. We go on this brunch cruise. It's amazing. It was the really first time that we really, like, held hands, like, kissed in public. And it was a weird transition. I think we were having we didn't know what to do a little bit.
It was very sweet, and it felt right.
Yes.
Again, coming from the backgrounds that we do. And again, I was a worship leader in another life. And so being in public, I always was very aware of like what I did out in public, because people would watch me and know me and be like, oh, you're the worship leader girl. So being in public on a date with a woman and then kissing her in public was like almost triggering. And it was great. It felt right. It felt right between us. But for me, it was like, as soon as I pulled back, I was like,
yeah.
Did anybody see that? Are we okay? Like, I was so nervous.
In Florida, so we were just like,
yeah, you gotta be careful in Florida, depending on where you are. It was just like,
but it was a wonderful.
There was a lot of external, and I would say like throughout our relationship has been the same. There's a lot of external stressors or triggers, but internally, we're solid. Like everything is fine, and everything feels right, and it has from.
But the transition between friend to romantic was a little like.
It was a little jarring.
Like, we were really trying to figure it out because we had just been friends for so long.
And here's the other thing. Just as people in general, you're like, you could ask any of our friends. We are very physical touch people to everyone. Like to our sisters, to our friends. Like the other night I went out with one of my friends and we went to coffee and I was holding her hand while we were at coffee. Like we're just very physical anyway. So even the fact that we started like holding hands on our date was like, we always hold hands, but this is different. Like I always have my arm like around, oh, I love you so much, but like
not this time.
This is different.
So after that, we ended up going to one of our favorite tea shops and got some chocolate and some tea. We sat together, and it was in that moment
she cried.
I started crying.
She's not super externally emotional. Like, she doesn't really cry.
I do, but like not as much as.
No, I cry every day. But I looked over and she was like tearing up, and like a tear actually fell, and I was like,
she took a picture of it because she was like, no way this is happening.
Are you okay? Anyway, go ahead.
Because I realized like I think it just hit me to my core, like, this is the
Feels
love
right.
of my life. This is it. And nobody can stop this. This is like divine.
She's a practicing gay, y'all.
Y'all. Okay, we tried so hard.
This is clearly 10 minutes.
10 minutes. We tried.
And we still have more details.
Yeah, like if we're
But hopefully this gives some resolution for those who have been like all these cliffhangers. Like that's how we got to our first date.
Yeah,
but there is
more. We'll share more after the first date. We'll share some like intricate detail.
Yeah. And we'll keep spilling the tea.
Yes. Meet the Masons part 6.
How I ended up with my straight best friend.
We stopped at our first date, right? So we go on our first date. It
was essentially a confirmation date. It was not. It wasn't like a typical date. It was very fun. Yeah. I'm not trying to take the
we were
joy
dating
from
each other.
But it was like this
confirmed everything.
Clearly was not a typical like. Where are you from? How many siblings do you have? It was like she said, she had already bought my engagement ring the night before our first date. So this was not a typical date.
So pretty much like the very next day we were like, okay, we're doing this. We are in this. Ring is bought. So let's go ahead and tell our families, rip the Band-Aid off. Let's do it. So
literally our first date was, well, she secretively bought my engagement ring on Friday night. We went on our date on Saturday. We started telling immediate family Sunday. And by the end of the week,
our immediate family knew.
Immediate family and a couple of friends also knew, like, hey, we're dating. We're going to get married. This is not a game.
This is where we're at.
Yeah. Here we go.
Overall, like, the date that week, it was really magical and then also really painful, which, like, we'll do a whole video about families' reactions, all that good stuff. But one of the questions that somebody asked was, okay, we want to know about the first kiss. So, I will be the first to say that, you know, like when people say, like, oh, fireworks, like, there was a spark, like, I felt something. Now I know what they mean.
Yeah.
Because when I kissed her, when we kissed for the first time, I was like, huh?
Oh, I really like you.
Yeah. And our lips just connected real well.
You're so sweet.
Like,
you are a very good kisser.
They just match well.
Yeah.
It was
a very sweet. It was
fantastic.
Giving Disney. Like, it was just very romantic and very like, oh.
Yeah.
It was just nice.
It was really nice. And it again just confirmed for me, like, yeah, this is good.
Yeah.
So that's to answer that question. But yeah, so like families know, and then at that point we're telling friends, and we're just like, okay, this is real.
We out here.
Like, this is real. Like, we are transitioning from we're just friends to like a romantic relationship. What the hell does that look like?
It was not easy, but it also wasn't hard because a lot of things were already in place. Like, we already lived together.
Right.
We already, at that time, I had just sold my car, so we were even sharing a car. Right. So there was just a lot of things that were like...
We even had a dog together, which, like, sidebar, the way that we got him was we knew that, like, because we were roommates, we were best friends, whoever got married first at the time to a man,
right?
Whoever got married first and was going to move out, the other person who
would keep the dog
because they would just be sad, like,
and alone,
like,
I lost my best friend.
My friend just got married,
yeah.
And so we got a dog with the thought of whoever gets married first is going to go off with their husband, and then the other person is left with the dog, so they have comfort and love
the household,
right? We were in this transition of like, what does that look like? And basically we just wanted to be really intentional. So we went on a lot of dates. We started calling each other by like pet names, and we were just kind of exploring this new space. And again, it wasn't hard, but it was interesting. It was an interesting.
It was not without
feeling.
thought. We had to be very.
There were times that we would fall back into like, we just feel like friends and be like.
Honestly, there are still times when I feel like you're my best friend, which you are.
Yeah,
and then I have
we
to remember,
have
like,
that foundation.
You're like my best friend. Like,
yeah, but like I'm very glad that foundation was laid.
Yeah, that was
personally.
That was one of the best parts of entering this relationship versus the other ones that I've been in, where it was like I didn't question any of your motives, and I didn't question, like, I guess just your motives. I didn't have to worry about, like, is she just doing this to XYZ fill in the blank? And I was like, no, this is my person.
Yeah. One of the things that I had been, like, working on with my therapist as well was, like, trusting myself and trusting my intuition, especially coming from evangelical spaces. And so part of the reason this was a question, like, part of the reason why I went ahead before talking to my therapist and said, like, no, yeah, I know, is because I got to a point before having to speak to her where I, like, knew. And again, I'll go through the aha moments, but, like, I knew. So I was really proud of myself, too, for, like, being able to choose this on my own and not needing, like, permission from my therapist per se. But the crazy part is that I had already bought the ring, right? So here we go. The day before our first date, we had basically, like, all of our conversations had kind of, like, come to a head, and I was like, hey, can I take you on a date tomorrow? And she was like, yeah, I think that would be good. And as we were talking about it, again, one of those, like, gut, like, okay, I know that tomorrow's date is just a confirmation, but I already know this is where we're at. So we go to her family's house for a movie night, and I brought my laptop with me, and she had showed me the ring that she really liked. And I basically, like, kept telling her, like, oh, I won't be able to afford it. Like, there's no way. So, like, let's just plan for, like, spring.
I cannot.
Like, expect, like, spring. I think that'll be a good time to prepare, like, for us to get engaged. But I had other plans. So I found the ring, and I kept telling her too expensive. But really, I was like, no, I'm going to purchase this, because think about it. If it didn't work out, which I knew it would, I could always return it. Right? So we're at her family's house, and I knew that I wouldn't be able to ask, like, permission or, like, tell any family what I was doing. So I was like, my way of kind of incorporating her family in it was I purchased the ring while we were at their house. And that was my nod to that. So I was just like, you know what? As I was getting the tickets for the brunch cruise, I had another tab pulled up that had her ring, and I was like, yeah, I'm just going to do it. And I did.
I cannot believe you did that.
Which meant that post us going on our first date, I now know that there is a ring coming. So our first date happens, we're telling people, we're grieving, we're excited, we're going through all of the emotions and feelings.
Yeah,
and then I'm like,
it was a lot.
Wait a second, I have to plan a proposal. Like,
without telling your best friend that you're planning a proposal. And we live together. So where are you going to keep this ring that I'm not going to find it? And how are you going to plan something in another life? We were also event planners. How are you going to plan an event without me, your business partner? So it's just like, I actually cannot believe. Yeah, you're sneaky.
Oh,
but
I did it.
I cannot believe that you got away with it. And I did not know.
Yeah. A moment for the ring.
Yes, thank you.
So as I'm telling friends, like, hey, we're together, whatever, I'm also saying, like, oh, and by the way, I know this is shocking that, like, your friends are together,
dating,
but I also need your help for a proposal in 2 months. So she kept saying, like, are you going to propose to me on Christmas? And you're really just saying spring.
I'm joking.
Complete joke. And I was like, But this tells me that all day on Christmas, she's just going to be in the back of her head, like, I wonder if I'm getting a ring today. And I was like, nope, you're not going to get a ring on Christmas. You're going to get a ring the day after Christmas.
She proposed on the 26th.
Just to mess with her brain a little bit.
I cannot
So at the end of the day, on Christmas, she'd go to sleep and be like, wow, I really didn't get a ring today. Okay, she was right. And then it solidifies that in spring, that's when it's coming.
What's crazy is I wasn't even thinking that hard about it. I really wasn't. I wasn't expecting it.
I was doing all the work. Part 7 for engagements, proposals, and all the tea. Meet the Masons, part 7.
How I ended up with my straight best friend.
Okay.
All right. I'm good.
Well,
I'm ready.
the people want to hear from you, my love. They want to know when you fell in love with me.
Okay. Picture it. Tampa, Florida. 1922. Okay, so we're talking about when I started to have feelings.
Yeah, like when did
For
you
you?
start having feelings for me?
Consciously, the moment you told me you essentially had a crush on me. But if I'm looking back, I think all the signs were there that I probably had subconscious feelings or attraction or maybe even love. I don't know. Looking back, I have so much love for you, and I have always had so much love for you. I think in my mind, I was like, this is just my best friend. But
So
was that it?
You think that you probably had feelings for me
I probably had
before,
feelings.
you just were never going to tell me?
No, not in a conscious way, like, oh, I like her, but I'll never say anything. I think it was looking back. It's kind of like when I was in first grade, I had my first crush on a girl, but I didn't know that then. It was just like, oh, I think she's so cool.
Okay.
I think in the same way, it's like, oh, looking back, like, probably had feelings for you, but either didn't recognize it, or maybe it was just true friendship, love. I don't know. But I know that when I consciously was like, I am falling
It's like
for
I
her.
unlocked it.
Yes,
When I
it's
told
like
you
as
that,
soon
it
as
was
you
like,
said,
oh.
like, I think I have some feelings for you, I was like,
Oh, this could...
great.
Okay.
I'm down for this. If you want to try this path, I'm ready. I think that is probably the best. Yeah. So I think in part like 2 or 3, I mentioned how I'm an Enneagram 4, which if you know, you know. And I kind of went down this split path. Like that actually is what started for me the journey of consciously recognizing my own feelings, sitting in them, allowing myself to imagine like a life with you beyond just being friends, or a life with you beyond just what we already had. You having feelings and wanting to explore those, I was totally fine with that. For me, again, I stood at that path, and in my mind, I was like, let me picture the house with the picket fence and the kids and the dogs and the everything. But I also was trying to hold space for you that if it wasn't really what you were feeling,
we would
you didn't feel
have our friendship.
We'd still have our friendship, but I didn't want you to feel any pressure. But I guess to answer everyone's question, like, when did I know? I knew that I could be in love with her the moment she told me, like, I think I'm feeling something. I was like, great. Let's give it a go. So the other question that we've gotten is like, was the first kiss on the first date? It was not. That was our first public kiss, and it was great. But our first kiss was after we had had some conversations about like, what could this look like? And like I said, I was kind of living in my own head of like trying to picture a life with Taylor as her partner, and like as her wife. It was weird to think like using those kinds of terms in my head was weird, but I actually, to help you kind of picture, I was like, well, take a second to kind of be like me and imagine it. Imagine yourself with me, like really let yourself go there. How does that make you feel? And I kind of walked her through like, just like this imagination exploration. And I think that was for me when I could really see it, and then when I shared that kind of imagination, that story with her, that's when she started to really picture it, and we were having more conversations and things got intense, and it was like, okay, I think this feels right. But during one of those conversations, we had a kiss, and it was good.
We also went to a Lizzo concert together.
Yes, we did.
In the midst of some of these conversations, that at the very beginning of the conversations. And this is where I, like, while we were at this concert, I just
wanted to, it was in the end of
like,
September.
Yeah, I just wanted to, like, at that concert, hold her, touch her, like, be coupled with her. And it was the first time
I felt that,
and I didn't tell her. But
I had no idea that she was thinking of that in that moment. I was dancing, I was singing.
Yeah,
I was
we were
not
having so much fun.
Yeah,
But I was
we also had other friends there, so I was hanging out with the friends. But apparently,
I wanted to be coupled there. I was like, oh my God, like I want, this is it. Like, I know I want to be with you. And it was after that Lizzo concert, and it was after some of these conversations that I was like, okay,
we can do this.
And so we had a conversation, and we were like holding hands, and that just kind of led to like so once I actually did go back to therapy when she came back,
she missed a lot.
I went in and I was like, update. Yeah, you know, my friend and roommate who I'm living with, yeah, we're together, and we gotta talk about it. And it was great. It was a great conversation, but I'll never forget her face.
Like, oh, that's what I imagine. I wasn't there.
No,
but
yeah, that's exactly.
I can imagine.
It was like, oh, great. Let's talk about it.
I think something that really solidified my love for Taylor, I know it moved really quickly to go from like no idea to someone saying like, I think I have a crush on you, to me being like, great, I'll marry you right now. First of all, in our time, that's not that long. But I think something that happened for me, sorry, I forgot, ADHD brain. I just remember feeling really safe with Taylor and looking back at our friendship when she was like, I think I have feelings for you. It was very easy for me to fall in love with her because she is truly the safest person I know. And she's just such a good, like, kind person and like just a good friend. And so for me to imagine myself with Taylor was like, this makes so much sense, not just because like, oh, we live together and, you know, all those things, but like, this makes so much sense because this is the kind of partner, going back to the values conversation we had at the kitchen counter where we were comparing notes, I was looking for Taylor just as much as she was looking for me because we had the same values and still do have the same values. So for me, it was very easy to fall in love with her because I'm like, she's kind, she's loving, she's generous. Something that Taylor is really, really good at is she will make you feel like you are just as much her friend as anyone else is her friend. So it doesn't matter if you've known her for 2 weeks or 20 years, you're going to feel that same amount of love. Okay, proposals are next because she proposed to me. I did not know it was coming at all. It was 2 months after we started dating. She had already bought the whole stories are coming up next.
Yeah.
And then
engagement, that's all next.
And I did like propose back to her, even though we were already engaged.
We'll tell you.
We'll get into that. That's part 8.
Meet the Masons, part 8. The proposal stories.
How I ended up engaged to my straight best friend.
So where we left off is basically I'm planning Kelly's proposal, and this was shocking to everyone. I can remember some of the reactions.
I mean, I can imagine.
Yeah. The stars just kind of aligned for this. We had gone to a friend's birthday dinner, and we reconnected with somebody who Kelly knew in middle school.
Oh, yeah.
She happened to be a singer, one that Kelly, like, she was like, oh my God, like, she's an amazing singer. And as a singer, you can't just bring anybody into, like, the space to sing. So when I found out that she was like as amazing as she was, I was like, okay, could you potentially sing for the proposal?
That is so funny.
Which was great. And then I hit up her like best friend from when she lived in Indianapolis and asked him like, hey, like, are you planning on coming to Florida for Christmas where his family was? And he was like, yeah, I actually am. And the stars aligned. It just so happened that our favorite photographer and her best friend was going to be in town.
My best friend. Yeah.
So stars are aligning.
That's crazy.
Yes. But also it was the most stressful time of my life.
And it's so funny because I knew he was coming to town because, again, he's one of my best friends. Yeah. And I remember seeing that he was in Tampa and I was like, oh, I should reach out. And I literally didn't because I was like, no, he's here for the holidays. He's here to see his family. Little did I know you had already booked him for this proposal. That is so funny. And I was like, no, let's not bother him. Taylor's like, I'm hiring you.
I set it up to, well, I asked her. This is what I really did. I asked her, and I was asking her very slyly because I was like, she's not expecting to get a ring anytime soon. So I'm like, well, you know, for spring, for summer, when we end up engaged, like, what would be a proposal that you would like? And she gives me this whole story.
What's good is it was leaning into those conversations that we were already having in order to picture our life together and to become comfortable with the idea that, like, we're going from friend to partner. Like, one of those stories was like, when we get engaged, like, what should that be like? So to me, it felt very natural for her to ask me that question, because I had been telling her, like, imagine in 7 years when we're married and we're walking through New York together with our baby. Like, we had already been doing these like fantasy conversations to like picture.
Yeah.
So for her to be like, so what's your dream proposal? I'm like, great.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
She gives me this whole spiel, and she's like, do you want to tell them or do you want me to? Go ahead.
I can.
Do you remember it?
Yeah, I can remember, because it was my dream proposal. I was like, I would love it if we were just like, we had brunch together, like we had lunch or something, and then like we were walking in one of our favorite neighborhoods where all the houses are pretty, and then like you just like turn and we go into an Airbnb together, and I don't know it's an Airbnb, and I just think, why are we at this person's house? And like then someone is singing or someone's reading poetry, and then we have like tea together, and it's just like this magical moment of like, we're just walking and all of a sudden we're in this completely different reality of being in one of these beautiful houses. Like, I was just kind of, I guess that was kind of the fantasy, was like, essentially, I just wanted to walk into a space that was like very lovely and like whimsical and romantic and sweet, and have like live music and have someone singing or doing poetry or something creative, and like, that was what I wanted. And then I just wanted that moment with just you. And I was very specific, like, because of all the stuff we had gone through with like family and friends and people disapproving and all of that stuff, all of that grief. I was like, but no matter what, I just want it to be me and you. Like, I don't want to do something where it's a flash mob at Disney, because that is something that would be very much on brand for me. I would love that. But I think with everything that had gone on with our external factors, I was like, I don't want anything too big or flashy. I just want to be with you so that I can focus on you. I don't want to be thinking about someone else's reaction or So that was my like,
that was the fantasy.
That was my dream proposal.
Right.
Which she did everything I said, and I did not get it in the we need to talk about that part.
Yeah. So it's the day of the proposal. It's the day after Christmas, and I tell her, hey, I got us reservations for this awesome steakhouse in Tampa. And one thing that we kept saying throughout dating is like, we don't get to get ready for dates and like show up to dates separately like other couples do, because we already live together. So like, we're getting ready and doing things.
And I had just sold my car, so we'd even drive together. So it's not even like we could pretend and like meet at a restaurant. Like, no, we're just always together.
Yeah. So I end up telling her, like, I am going to go get ready at another friend's house, and you were going to stay home and get ready with your sister's here. She's going to help you. And like, you guys are going to have a sister day. I sent her to brunch, and I sent her, I like got nails for her, like all these things. And I was like, you guys are going to have a sister day. I am going to go get ready somewhere else, and we're going to meet at the restaurant like you have said that you've wanted.
And I was like, oh, that's so romantic and sweet. Thank you.
Yeah. So while she's getting ready all day, me and a couple of other friends meet at an Airbnb that I have rented out. And exactly what you said, in a beautiful neighborhood, it's rented out, and it looks, I picked it because it's very like studio-esque, like it was just like all white walls. And so our photographer had a lot to work with, but also she had seen this thing on, I think, Instagram, where like these roses were like hanging from the ceiling, and she was like, that is magical. And I was like, done. So we like string these roses and we have them hanging from the ceiling. And I have like a scrapbook of like all of our like first dates and all the things we had been doing in our relationship. The ring came in, and that was, I like hid it in a suitcase under my bed. It was like, it was just the most exhilarating. Yeah. And I got us new outfits, because as soon as we were getting engaged, we were going straight into our engagement photo shoot. I also called my hairstylist from Ohio, and I flew her to Florida to do our hair and give us fresh cuts for this engagement.
All this is happening. And leading up, she was like, as we're just becoming a couple, like, let's start doing facials together in the morning. Like, we can have like self-care time together. That's so sweet. I did not know that she was like prepping our skin for 2 months in advance for our engagement shoot.
Photo shoot.
So like flying down our hairstylist. I mean, you really like every detail. You were ready. And I still to this day, I look back at pictures and I'm like, number one, you're crazy. Number two, I cannot believe the intentionality. Number three, I cannot believe that I didn't catch you.
Not once.
Not one, but I'm also very gullible. I wasn't. When she said spring, I was like, great.
Done.
See you in April.
So we definitely, I have her with her sister. They're spending the day. We're definitely like stringing all these flowers and we're setting everything up. The photographer comes in, the singer comes in, and we're like, okay, it is go time. But at this point, it's hitting me that like I am proposing today. I don't think it had hit me. Because
when you're doing all those details,
planning and like the ring had to come in and our outfits got lost in the mail. I had to like start over with our outfits. Like it was so stressful. We missed our eyebrow appointment, but we did get our hair done.
Also, this is the day after Christmas, so we had a bunch of holiday stuff going on.
Right.
And again, going through things with friends and family.
Yeah,
like,
trying to hide things from her. It was a lot. So on
the day of the proposal.
Yeah, it didn't hit me. It didn't hit me until literally like, it was like, okay, Kelly's on the way. You need to get dressed. And I was like,
I'm about to do
shit.
this.
What?
I'm about to do this.
Yeah. I cannot believe that it has taken us that long to make this video. I guess another part of the proposal.
There's just a lot of details, y'all. I'm sorry.
Okay, Meet the Masons, part 9. You know the intro. You've got it. Proposal stories.
Okay.
Here we go. So, Kelly is on the way. I'm getting dressed. And I have friends. I have 2 friends with me. They are helping me. And I'm freaking out. And I'm trying not to, but I am. So
I cannot imagine what you must have been feeling.
Oh my gosh. It was so intense.
Because I was feeling nothing. I was driving in the car with my sister to meet you for dinner, I thought.
Yeah.
So
also, it was very, I think it's important to note, like, our relationship was still very fresh and fresh to other people. Mm-hmm. We had only been together 2 months, and this was so new for me. And so to have to, like, be like romantic and lovey in front of other people with you was new. So that was also kind of like, oh, can we? Oh, okay. So I just knew that today was like, this day was going to be really big. And
wow.
I set the outfit out for her, have her hair done. I have a thing to go in her hair, like nails are done, makeup is done, new shoes, everything. And her sister's like, oh, I'm going to take you to this restaurant. Do you want to
and then okay, so my sister Courtney, like, shout out, a real one, because she was telling me what to order at this restaurant, because she had been, but I hadn't. Mind you, she knows I'm not going to this restaurant. She knows she's taking me to my proposal.
She helped me out good.
And I was like, Courtney, what do I order for an appetizer? And she's like, oh, you have to get the French onion soup. Like, it's the best. And if you have leftovers, bring me some. This girl, she needs to get an Oscar for her performance that day, because I was convinced.
Thanks, Courtney.
I had no idea that I was not going to get dinner.
Yeah.
Which was crazy, because I didn't eat that much that day in anticipation for going to this restaurant.
Sorry. Yeah.
So I was starving.
So you're in the car.
I was in the car.
And you show up to the Airbnb.
I thought, so Taylor said that she was getting dressed at our friend's house. And this was a friend whose house I had never been to. So when we pull up to the Airbnb, I'm like chilling, sitting in the car. I'm talking to Courtney, because I thought Taylor's inside getting ready. I saw the car was there. Like, oh, okay, Taylor's in there. All right. So anyway, Courtney, let's finish our conversation.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Taylor is inside, like, freaking out.
Because I tracked her location. I'm like, okay, they're here. And then she's sitting out in the car. I'm in position. As soon as the car pulls up, I'm like, okay, here we go. Like we're doing this.
Yeah. And I'm in the car with Courtney, like, so yeah,
taking her sweet time.
I honestly,
and even the opera singer, like I felt so bad, because they were playing the same chord,
like waiting
for a minute and a half, waiting for me
to walk in so they could start.
Door. So
I didn't know.
I didn't know. Like, where is she? So finally,
wait, and then I changed my shoes too. So I went to the trunk. I'm like changing my shoes, I'm changing my sweater because I'm like, I don't think I want to wear this. And Courtney's like,
She'd probably get in there.
should go inside. And I'm like, oh, okay, she's
Yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah.
Getting ready.
Comes in, opens the door, and
As soon as the door opened, Sarah, the singer, starts singing La Vie en Rose. And I'm like, and there's flowers like strung from the ceiling. I see my best friend Christian there taking pictures immediately. Taylor's standing there in an outfit, just standing. And then our other friend Addie is like taking video like behind. So I'm just like in a room full of like some of my closest friends and Taylor. And I was like, what is this? Mind you, I've walked into the fantasy that I told her exactly what I wanted.
and
I had no idea.
what was
I
going
was
on.
so shook. I did not know what was happening. Which is hilarious. Honestly, after about 3 minutes of like breathing, for some reason, my eye was glued to the table that she had set up with like champagne and like a scrapbook of us and all the stuff. But there was a handkerchief that had a little bit of blue detail. So immediately, I don't know why, my mind goes to something borrowed, something blue. We're getting married. We're getting married right now.
Meanwhile, I'm shaking in my boots, and I am just
Yeah, I
like, get in
bet.
the house. Come on, like, let's
Yeah,
do this.
you had to like close the door
And
behind
I
you
had
because
to
I was
close
just
the
standing
door.
there like,
yeah, frozen. So I pull her in, and I'm like, come on, like, and I take you to the table. We look at the scrapbook together, and I'm like starting to realize like, shit, I have to say words. Like I have to actually ask her. And Christian had told me exactly where to stand so that he can get the best pictures. And I'm like, okay, great. So I like pull her back over there, and I'm like, okay. And I don't even remember everything I said, to be really honest. I think it's on camera, but
you were taking me through the scrapbook and it showed like our first date. Mm-hmm. And like,
once I took you over to the corner, I don't remember my whole spiel, but I do remember
you
saying
said
like
something, but it wasn't even, I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah, I know. We were both like, it was a very heightened moment, and I had the ring hidden behind like the like blinds on the window next to us. So I like pull out the ring, and
at that moment the wind is knocked out of me because I'm like, this is a ring
like,
box.
what are you doing? What are you
Yeah,
doing?
yeah,
What's
yeah.
going on?
In the video, I'm like, what? What's happening? What's happening? What are you doing? What's
And
that?
I'm like, wait, you haven't figured it out by
I'm
now?
like, no!
I'm
It was
like,
probably
how have you
15
not-
minutes, and I was like, what's going on?
How do you not know that I was about to pull out a ring? You walked into the fantasy that you asked me for. So
It wasn't springtime, so I was
Right.
not expecting this.
So I opened the ring box, and that is where she is shook, because she's like, is that my ring? Is that my ring? That's the ring I picked out that I kept telling her was too expensive. And she was, I mean, the shookethness on her face.
Yeah.
Like,
we'll have to post some pictures because you can see it on my face. Like, I was like, what's that?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. So shock and all. And eventually I had to like grab her and like give her a hug. And I was like, so is this a yes? Like, will you marry me? And that is when, like, yeah.
I'm sobbing.
Just such a beautiful moment. It was
amazing.
Yeah.
You get dap for that because you killed it. I had no idea.
Thanks, baby.
I had no
Yeah.
idea.
And then we went straight into our engagement shoot.
Oh, yeah,
And
that
we
was so
changed
fun.
clothes a couple of times. I had outfits ready, shoes ready, jewelry ready, makeup.
Yeah, and I'm getting
everything
dressed,
ready.
and I'm like,
Yeah, I'm like, changing this outfit real quick.
what?
Yeah.
Like, I was just like, I
Yeah.
was so shook.
And then
Yeah.
after that, we went to Disney
We went to
Springs.
Well, we went to a second location, took more pictures,
Right.
and then
Yeah.
we met up with all of our friends and my sister.
Yeah, we
at
went
Disney,
to Disney Springs. We were supposed to see fireworks. We missed them, so we just went to dinner at Disney Springs and had a little bit of a like
was so
exciting,
sweet.
fun.
It was the day after Christmas, so there were Christmas trees up, and it was they had like it was in
magical.
Florida. They had like fake snow. It was just
It was
It
magical.
was like the perfect amount of intimate proposal and Disney celebration.
Yeah.
That is like exactly what I wanted. So
Yeah.
it was incredible.
out.
Like she
said yes.
I said yes.
We decided that I had basically said, like, I don't really want to be proposed to. I didn't even really want that if I was going to be with a man. Like, I could never figure out, like, oh, this is a great proposal for me. So I was just like, I don't think I really need it. Like, I want you to have the big one, and then just give me my ring.
I was like, but I would like to plan something special for you, like because I want to show you how much I love you, and like I would like to reciprocate in some way. And so we settled on me presenting her ring instead of a proposal, since technically I'd already accepted her proposal. So yeah, so I guess that's the next story we'll tell, is when I presented Taylor, and I did surprise her. She had no idea.
That's true.
I cannot believe I got away with that either. So yeah, that's another story.
Meet the Masons part 10.
How I ended up with my straight best friend, and how I
story.
ended up, proposing to her.
So I had sent her a ring because she was asking, like, well, what ring sits right with you? Like, what ring do you want? We did want our rings to complement each other, and
I had picked out my ring.
Yeah, and she was in love with her ring. I hadn't really found one that I was in love with. I found one that I was like, oh, this is really pretty. I could do this. I think mine just felt a lot more less pressure in general. And so I sent her that link. When later on, like when I ended up getting the ring and putting it on, it ended up being too big in a few different ways. And so we're using this as my temporary ring because later on I found a ring that I actually fell in love with. And so
that's being custom made right now.
Yes.
But this is the story of how I presented her with her first ring. So Taylor sends me the link, and I was like, great, done, purchase. Because I was so excited, but also I was trying to figure out, she had the advantage of proposing to me around Christmas time. So it was very natural to like, oh, there's a package coming, don't look at it. Like, oh, there's something coming, like you can't see it. So she kind of already had that built in. I had nothing. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this near Valentine's Day, because then it makes sense that if I get something in the mail or if whatever, like, it's a Valentine's Day gift. So that's kind of the angle I went with. So I had decided that I was going to present her ring to her at this restaurant that she was really excited to go to. Had we ever been
I think
to that before?
We went once, like years before.
Oh, that's true. And so I was like, okay, I got us reservations. It was like the Saturday or Friday after Valentine's Day. So again, I kind of was just using that as my...
She took me to a Michelin star restaurant, okay?
I was trying to stay with her, you know? So I was like, okay, we've got reservations on Friday. Like, I'm really excited. Let's get you a new outfit. Let's go shopping. And so did you suspect... I mean, because it was near Valentine's Day, so I was trying to just let it be like...
There was a part of me that was like, this is just Valentine's Day. There was another part of me that was like, but this could be her trying to present my ring. I think there was some suspicion leading up to it.
Okay.
But on our drive there, I was like, oh no, this is actually just Valentine's Day, which you can explain why.
I'll explain why. So we got her a new outfit and new shoes and all this stuff. My plan was to take her to dinner, present her with her ring at dinner, and then we'll go back to our apartment where my sister and one of our friends had set up like a whole dessert spread. I mean, just like over the top, multiple cakes and all. I mean, just like it was all laid out.
There were candles on the
floor,
everywhere, and flower petals.
I had boarded our dog for the weekend, and she had no idea. So we went to dinner, and our dog was at home, and we came back, and he was gone.
My son was gone.
We had to celebrate. So I'm just saying, like, that was kind of a flex. Like, you left the apartment in one state and came back, and it was completely different. But you know, so we're riding to dinner, and she had a purse. I didn't have a purse, and the dress I was wearing had no pockets.
So I was like, there's no way
that I have a ring.
Because there's no ring in sight. There's no ring.
You had the purse.
In sight. I had the purse. She had nothing. No pockets, no anything. So I was like, okay, it's Valentine's Day for real.
It was in here. It was tucked in here. Which I was like, this is going to be the one night that she's like, you look so cute. And like, and I was like, please don't touch me. So we go through dinner. I like barely ate because my plan and what I did was we had an appetizer, we had our entree and dessert, which we had a whole dessert spread at home. And I wasn't going to order dessert, but she was like, yeah, I want to see a dessert menu. I was like, okay. So I go to the bathroom and I pull the ring out. And I actually gave the box to a waitress, which if you're worried, I actually had it wrapped in like a paper towel. So it wasn't, I don't know, whatever, if that matters. But I gave it to the waitress and I was like, can you just bring this out on a plate and just set it in front of her? And she was like, are you proposing? Oh my God. And I was like, I mean, she was really freaking out. Like, did I want it to be this big thing? I was like, no. Like, we want it to be really small. Like, just put the ring on a plate, set it in front of her, walk away. Please do not sing or anything like that. So that's exactly what I did. Gave it to the waitress.
Yeah.
And
the plate comes out. She comes out, and I was looking down, and then all of a sudden there's like,
yeah,
a ring in front of me, and then
it was a box, so it was closed.
Yeah, and it's like sitting there, and then I look up, and she's like running away, and I was like,
and I'm recording her
this?
like,
what is this? Like, wait, what is happening?
And she opens it, and she's like, oh my God. And it was really sweet.
I was surprised. I actually was, yeah, and
I just wanted
amazing.
to surprise you.
Yeah, you did,
but it was
really
very
intimate.
It was exactly what you wanted.
Exactly what I wanted.
Very small.
I just wanted it to be me and Kelly and be a moment between us. I didn't want it necessarily to be at home, but I wanted it to be intimate, and it really was. It was so beautiful. And then we went home, and I was surprised again.
Yeah.
And I opened the door, and there's just like
candles and flowers and dessert and everything.
It was so beautiful.
Which shout out again to Courtney and Farissa, who set up, because obviously I was out with her at dinner, and so
our friends really came through when it came to our proposals. They deserve
Farissa, Addie, Courtney, Christian, Sarah. Thank you. Like, so it was a really huge help, and so it was really sweet to come home and like we both had rings. We had taken a bunch of pictures, and then we had a Polaroid, and we were at home and just like we cut cake and we took pictures and like.
We had fun.
We watched a movie. It was really sweet.
It was so sweet. So I think that is.
I think we've
everything.
made it.
Did we make it to the end?
To the end of the journey.
Wow, that is Meet the Masons. How we started off as best friends and
ended up engaged.
Thank you for creating the series with us. We love
this has been very fun.
Yeah.
And hopefully you have some resolution.
We will also talk about. We have some videos coming up talking about deconstruction. What like that was like for us, and like just the church and religion,
and more on the transition from friend to partner, because
like
even
those
still
aha moments that we
even
had.
Still there are moments when I'm like, oh.
Yeah, we'll talk about the aha moments. We'll do some extras. Like, we got y'all.
We've officially met.
But to all of our new friends, we love you so much.
Happy to be here.